Hi, thanks for joining us for Babe Talk. Today we're going to talk about milk production based on a poll that we took, and it looks like that was the winner.
Yeah, so we really appreciate everybody when you guys show up and learn a little bit about milk production. And to start that, I feel like a great place to start is how is milk produced at all, or not at all, but how is milk produced in general. So when we think about milk production, there's two really big factors at play. And one of those is the emptiness of your breast, and the other one is the frequency in which milk is being removed. And these two factors together will either increase or decrease your milk production. So Heather's going to talk a little bit about how could we increase the emptiness of the breast? Because if we get the breast more empty, we signal the body to produce more milk to replace the milk that is empty. So let's hear from Heather a little bit about the emptiness of the breast.
Yeah, so the emptiness of the breast is a really important part of milk production. Without having the breast fully empty, the body just does not get the signals that it needs in order to increase production, and it begins to think that that milk is not needed any longer. So one of the key factors here is what's called FIL, or feedback inhibitor of lactation. This is a protein that the milk contains, and when this protein is still held within the breast or accumulated at a high amount, that's what communicates to our body that there is a lot of this protein in this breast. Mom must not need this milk. We might need to begin to decrease how much the body's providing. With the emptiness, the full emptiness of the breast, we're communicating to the body by taking that protein out, by removing the milk and keeping the breast emptied, that there is more milk needed, and or that milk needs to be maintained at a certain amount of mom's supply.
So what are some ways that you've helped moms get their breasts more empty? So maybe we're thinking about like while the baby's eating or while the mom is pumping. Are there some ways that a mom could get their breast more empty and then boost milk production?
So with emptying the breast, we've got first and foremost, of course, baby at the breast. And when baby's at the breast, we're looking at encouraging baby to stay awake, stay active at the breast, really encourage them to empty that first breast before offering the second breast. Right. Possibly using breast compressions even to encourage baby.
Maybe you could share a little bit about how you help moms use breast compressions. Like, do they do it the whole time or just at the end? Or what do you think works best for most
breast
of your moms?
Compressions oftentimes are really helpful either toward the end of the feed or even at the beginning of the feed to encourage baby or entice baby at the breast.
I'll have moms do that a lot.
Yeah.
Like right when they get on, if the baby's like seeming antsy or just like doesn't seem like they want to do much. Is that what you usually recommend
absolutely,
as well?
absolutely. Just giving that baby a little enticement, saying like, hey, here's food. It's a good place to be. Let's go. Let's rock.
And when you have the mom do the breast compressions, like maybe explain a little bit of exactly how that looks. Like, what do they do?
Yeah, so with breast compressions, I usually tell moms to either press into the breast tissue or squeeze and hold the breast tissue while baby is sucking. This could be a non-nutritive type of sucking pattern or a more nutritive sucking pattern with a long jaw stride or more of a piston motion. Either will work just as well. So just squeezing into the breast tissue as firm as comfortable, no pain here, mamas, will really help to push some of that milk out for babies while they're also sucking to encourage them to increase that activity.
Yeah,
begin to showing.
I find that that's really helpful as well. And I'll tell moms, like, we want to reward the baby for their effort. Yes. So that's why you always do the compression like while the baby's sucking instead of doing it in between. A lot of people want to do it in between to like get the baby to go more, but what if the baby is like doing a long pause? What do you do to have the mom get the baby to go like get back into sucking?
I usually will have mom kind of tickle baby with their thumb right underneath the little chin there. If we have a support person like dad or grandma, they're great for going over there and tickling some feet or maybe rousing baby a little bit. A little bit of massage is really helpful too. Skin to skin down to the diaper is a phenomenal way to keep baby interested at the breast. So they do fully empty the breast. So they do stay engaged and interested, particularly with these newborns.
I would totally agree. And so we were talking about emptying the breast with baby at the breast. What about when you have a mom that maybe is exclusively pumping, or maybe she's at employed, and so she's having to work, and maybe her milk supply is needing to be boosted. Like, are there some ways that she could get the breast more empty with the pump?
So with pumping, we're looking along the same lines of those breast compressions. So I will always encourage moms to use those breast compressions while they're pumping. There is research that backs this method. We call it hands-on pumping, to really more efficiently and fully empty the breast to then communicate to the body that more milk is needed.
Yeah, and I think some moms have a hard time getting the milk to let down more than once on the pump. Do you have any like tips or tricks if we really want to get the breast empty with the pump, like to get that second letdown? Like, I think that's like the elusive second letdown on the pump. Like, what are some things that you found helps moms with that?
Sometimes it's helpful to kind of go back to that initiation mode of the pump, where it's a little bit of a faster rhythm, but a little bit of a slower or weaker suck. It just kind of tricks the body of sorts into thinking that baby's there and, hey, give me milk, come on, let it flow, releasing hormones so that milk begins to flow again. That can be helpful, especially if mom is not with baby. It can be helpful to have pictures and videos and blankets, anything that can really trigger mom's emotions, her brain, psychologically, to wrap herself around baby and not this machine hooked up to her breast.
Yeah, I totally think that helps. And I've had moms like sometimes even stop the pump completely and like take a few deep breaths and like do something to stimulate, like maybe rubbing or you know, kind of vigorously, and then start the pump again. And I've had a few moms say that helped them get like a secondary letdown, which gives you that added emptiness, which we know the more empty we can get the breast, the more milk your body's going to be triggered to want to make. So the second part of making more milk is to have more frequency of milk removal. And if we go back to like if a baby's at the breast and they want to tell a mom's body to make more milk, they're going to feed more frequently. So a lot of times you'll hear about babies that are like cluster feeding. And the baby's like feeds, and then 30 minutes later they're like, I want to eat again, and 30 minutes later I want to eat again. And this is the baby's way to tell your body to make more milk. And so if you're a mom that's having a need to boost production, we want to mimic that cluster feeding behavior. And so you can do that in a couple ways. One would be, best way would be to encourage the baby to do more feeding. And so some moms might find it helpful to like find a Netflix series that you love, and so you're willing to sit on the couch for a long period of time, especially if you have like newborn or a young baby who's not mobile yet, and just hang out with that baby skin to skin, and every time they look like remotely feedable, you just pop them back on, and we almost like encourage a cluster feeding. I find, and I know we've talked about this recently, a lot of times moms are thinking like, okay, I only need to feed the baby every 3 hours. But sometimes like waking the baby more frequently, especially in the newborn phase, if you're concerned about milk production, like getting that baby up more frequently to empty the breast more frequently can really boost milk production. And we've seen that time and time again, like if the baby's going long stretches or not getting enough number of feedings in 24 hours. And, you know, we'll say 8 is like the bare minimum, but really like newborn phase, I don't know, for your clients, I'm sure it's the same, is like I'm seeing like 10 to 12 is really like first 6 weeks. That's definitely the more common number, but a lot of times if they're only getting 8, the mom's having milk supply issues.
And how do you usually encourage moms to wake their babies to encourage them to feed more frequently?
Yeah, and I think the best way is to give the baby the space to wake up on their own, because if we try to wake them up when they're like in that dead asleep, they're just like totally passed out, and then you're trying to like change their diaper and like rouse them, and they're just like, leave me alone. They're like the angry teenager, like, don't wake me up, I'm mad. And then you get them to the breast and then they won't do anything because they're just like, why are you waking me up? So I really like to use just letting them lay down flat on their back, like in a crib or bassinet. So not any of the little contraptions that keep you asleep, like a bouncy seat or the swings, like those really keep you asleep.
Yes.
And so if we lay them just in their bassinet and let them rouse themselves, not in a swaddle or anything that would keep them asleep. And I find if you do that around like the hour and 45 minutes or 2 hours after the start of the last feeding, that the babies usually wake up really well by themselves within about 20 minutes. So I just will have moms like, hey, snuggle your baby after the feeding. Then around that 1 hour and 45 minutes, go ahead and lay them down. And you take care of yourself for a few minutes. Like go to the bathroom, grab a snack. And then by the time you're done with that, usually they're up and ready to eat. And I really encourage moms to do that all throughout the day so that we get a lot of daytime feedings in. And then hopefully if they're going to do like a 3-hour stretch, it's only at night, you know?
Right.
Because we want to utilize those long stretches when it would actually benefit you, for sure. And so the other thing about frequency is a lot of moms will see dips in their milk supply when the baby starts sleeping longer stretches at night. And maybe it's a little, the baby's doing it a little sooner than mom's body can manage. And so they see some dips in milk supply when the baby does go, 5 or 6 hours in the night consistently. And if you're noticing that, like one thing you could do is maybe the baby goes to sleep a little bit earlier than you, so 8:30 or something, but you don't really go to sleep till 9:30. One way you can decrease that long stretch is to actually do a pump session there right before you go to bed, and that could help keep the frequency up if you're noticing your body is just more sensitive to that decrease in the frequency. If we left it alone, your body would decrease milk supply and then the baby would start waking more frequently. But a lot of times we don't want to disrupt the baby's sleep if they finally started sleeping a little bit longer. So one way could mediate that is maybe to do a pump session just right before you go to bed.
I oftentimes also will advise that moms, if they are able to either really encourage baby to or use the pump to go to the breast at that 1 to 5 a.m. block, where we tend to have higher prolactin levels, which is that milk-making hormone. So sometimes that can really put a nice boost in supply when mom's supply may have dipped, especially with those longer sleep stretches at night.
I know, it's like so awesome when your baby finally sleeps longer. You're like, this is so awesome. And then you wake up and your breasts are like super full and engorged, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, this might dip the milk supply. And it might not. For a lot of moms, don't stress that that's going to happen. It doesn't always happen. But sometimes if you notice like, oh, my milk supply is starting to dip, or maybe you're back to work and you're noticing you're not really getting those long, the same volume at work, that might be a time where you could utilize that frequency. Anything else you can think about for frequency?
Other than skin to skin, if it's been about 2.5 hours before, the beginning of the last feed, put baby in skin to skin. More than likely, baby's going to be interested in feeding, and that will encourage that feeding to occur, as opposed to having the baby, sleeping in a contraption like a rock and play or whatever that just promotes that real deep sleep that you were talking about earlier.
I always laugh at this because we work at Pearland Pediatrics a couple days a week, and right across the street is Gringos, and every once in a while the wind will blow just perfectly where like you could smell Gringos when you walk outside the building. So I always make this joke of like a baby in skin to skin is like getting the downwind of Gringos. Like you cannot help but to go get some fajitas if you smell that.
I'm not hungry, but
but I could eat some fajitas for sure. So just think about that. It's like sitting in the parking lot of your favorite restaurant. That's what skin to skin is for babies. So you're gonna want to eat if you can smell that food and you're all warm and cozy and ready to eat. That really is a great way to entice a baby to eat more frequently.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of times when we're talking about boosting milk production, a lot of moms hear about like, oh, you could take this herb, you can eat this food, blah, blah, blah. And there's like this silver bullet out there. And the thing with that is like, if we get back to physiology, like how is milk produced, that's where we should always start, because that's your body's natural state. It's what your body is supposed to respond to. We have evidence that it works. Yes. All these foods and galactagogues is what they're called, like herbs and things, may or may not work for some women, and there's actually some contraindications for some women with certain health conditions that they shouldn't be taking these. And so if we start with what we have evidence for, which is what physiology tells us, if we empty the breast more often and more completely, we're gonna get more milk production. Right. And then if you're not seeing that work, really checking with your physician and finding out like what would be the appropriate things for you to be doing in addition to tapping into physiology, because there really are some contraindications and we don't have a lot of evidence about what works and what doesn't work for each mom. So anyway, we really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us for our Babe Talk.
Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Katie.
And we definitely plan to do this again, so take a look at our Facebook page, and we will let you guys know when we're going to do another one. And we would love to hear from y'all about what are some topics that you guys would like to hear us talk about. I know you guys have 2 options today, but we really want to hear from y'all about all the other things that you'd like us to talk about on Babe Talk. And anyway, we'll look forward to hearing from you guys. You can just hit us up in the comments on topics that you think would be good. All right. Thanks. Bye. Have a good Saturday and happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter.
Bye.